All right, everybody, welcome into another episode of the Full Press Saints podcast, of course, part of the Full Press Coverage Network. What is going on, everybody? It is Alec alongside Dayton today. Got a very exciting pre-game preview for the first preseason game tonight between the Saints and the Baltimore Ravens, which will be played at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore and Dayton. It's been a very long week for Saints fans, I'd imagine. How the heck are you feeling? And are we excited for some Saints football tonight?
It's been a very, very long week for Saints fans. Ever since the Ramczyk extension got signed, it's pretty much just been bad news for the Saints. And it has been, very long week. I think that's the exact way to put it, is that it's been long because there's been so much news, bad news thrown our way, and Saints are obviously trying to get over it. But Saints football is here. That's the important part. Also, up where I live, been going through a crazy heat wave, which a heat wave up here is pretty much any stretch of 5 or more days of where it's 90 degrees or more, and that's been going on for like over a week now. So heat wave, crazy Saints news going on. We've already gotten some football in our bellies, so now we're finally getting some Saints football today, and I'm really excited. This is also our first preseason game recording on this podcast, on the Full Press Saints podcast. So I'm really excited. Of course, it is an away game in Baltimore, so we get to talk about, the M&T Bank Stadium and the Ravens roster and all that. So I'm really excited. Obviously, it's always good to be back on the mic, but I think it's probably a good idea to go over.
It's great to be back talking about a game happening.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and I think it's good idea to talk about the news before we get into the preview for the game, of course.
Obviously, I think by now everybody knows what has happened with Mike Thomas and the Saints. It was reported by Jeff Duncan over the Times-Picayune about, allegedly dodging phone calls all summer. And really, it looked like when that article came out, it really seemed to separate, it created a rift between Mike Thomas and the Saints. It tried to paint, either Mike or the Saints as the villain in the story, depending how you viewed it. Individually, but it would look like, I think it was Charles Robinson, Yahoo Sports, came out a few days ago with the report. I believe it was Wednesday night about Sean Payton and Mike Thomas are talking, trying to move past this, and apologize to each other and whatnot. But really quick, I'll just say, and also I believe it was Triplet this morning, or was it Jeff Duncan?
Yes. Oh, well, multiple people, but Jeff Duncan reported it first. Nick Underhill has confirmed, so.
That Mike will be at the game on the sidelines with the Saints.
Yes.
So, really quick, I'll just say this about this, and then you can put your 2 cents in as well, Dayton. I just think this was a very frustrating situation all around between, Mike Thomas, Sean Payton, the Saints in general. I think the Saints felt like Mike should have got this done immediately after the season. I think Mike really wanted to wait it out and see if he could heal this up on his own. Hence probably why he dodged phone calls throughout the summer. I think when Mike got back to New Orleans and had to tell Sean and Mickey and everybody that I didn't get the surgery in March, I just got it in June, I think it humbled Mike a little bit, but at the same time I think it infuriated Sean Payton, and this was a situation that, miscommunication, lack of communication, overall, this should not have happened. This should not have been as big of a headline as it was. But it looks like they're trying to move forward past this, which is great to hear. I didn't think Mike was going to be traded regardless of, all this. But glad to see they're taking steps forward to move past this and continue on.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said before we started recording, the article that came up from Jeff Duncan, which really ignited this, you essentially had to pick sides, right? It was another kind of Saints fans kind of pitting ourselves against each other, essentially. But in that article, there was really no new news other than Michael Thomas was dodging phone calls for
which we
3
assumed
months from
beforehand.
Right. If there was lack of communication, we kind of already assumed, but he dodged phone calls from the wide receivers coach, the head trainer, and Sean Payton. So those are 3 significant guys to not pick up the phone. Now, why he didn't specifically pick that up, we'll never know. I think a lot of it has to do with the pride and the ego, but I think the part that is the most confusing, and of that, the rest of the Jeff Duncan article shouldn't really be taken with anything besides a grain of salt, is the fact that Michael Thomas then starts favoriting tweets talking about the Saints, making him wait to get surgery to finish out the season, when if he would have actually gotten surgery, it would have all been smoothed out when he originally got hurt in week 1 of last year. The thing is, though, if that is the case, then why did Michael wait from March to June to get the surgery if he wanted to get the surgery in the first place? Why did he then wait an extra 3 months to get the surgery after if he was already rehabbing? And it just doesn't make sense. If you're saying that Michael Thomas was upset by the Saints because they made him wait to get surgery, then why did he wait an additional 3 months to get surgery?
Right.
Like it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If he was truly upset about the Saints, he would have got it done in March. He would have been talking to the team. So really, this is all just, I think Jeff Duncan, what he's reporting is true, but I think the way he reported it and the time he reported it was really all for clicks. And he got it. And he got a lot of clicks. That article probably has millions of views already by this point.
Right.
At least hundreds of thousands. So, credit to him for doing that. But really, I think it just created a lot of unnecessary drama. And it made us question Michael Thomas's commitment to the team when I think that's pretty unfair to him. Mm-hmm. But, it really threw Saints Twitter into a frenzy. So, shout out to Jeff Duncan for that entertainment.
Yeah, and one more thing I'll add on to that. People, when this came out, we only heard from the Saints side. We never heard from Michael Thomas's side, what really happened besides him liking tweets of what people were assuming happened. And we're assuming that's what really happened. But at the end of the day, it's Mike's choice. If he did not want to play through that ankle injury, he easily could have gotten the surgery. I mean, if you're going to play through for your team like that, you got to realize if you do that and you worsen your body by doing that, at the end of the year, take care of your body, right? That is the first priority. I get it. You want to be heralded and, praised for playing through the injury for Breeze's last year, which is cool and all. But don't sit there not like a diva and want, applauses and praise for us recognizing that you played through your injury. Just get the surgery done, get ready for next year. It's that simple, really. I mean, I hate to slap this word on him because I really did not think Mike Thomas was this kind of wide receiver, but he's a diva. I'm gonna say it. He is a diva in the NFL. I think if you're gonna play for your team like that, that's cool and all, but just take the Larry Fitzgerald route of, look, stay quiet, get the surgery done. People in that building recognize what you mean to this team, what you mean to this fan base, and the effort you gave this year, right? So there's no reason for you to hold out.
Exactly.
There's no reason for you to hold out and try and get more praise and recognition for playing through the injury. It happens all the time in the NFL. Everybody does it. But you don't need to go make a big deal about this. If you get it in March, this is not a problem. He's ready to go for training camp. Him and Sean are on good terms, and they understand that this, let's roll this here with Jameis or Taysom. It's that simple, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, that's just our 2 cents on the whole situation. But it looks like now,
and he will be at the game tonight,
right? Yeah, things look like now.
So that's the best news. Like, that is the news that came out of that we really need to. He will be at the game tonight. He will be with the team. I just wish he was healthy.
Yeah, but we're here. It is what it is, and we'll just hope Mike is ready for the second half of the season. Maybe make a playoff push. Also, Patrick Robinson, my favorite, my my child.
Yeah, he was.
He was my boy.
Guy.
He was my boy.
He was your guy.
He was my boy. He retired. P-Rob yesterday or Thursday. Or was it Wednesday?
You always put me on the spot with this stuff.
Wednesday. My days are mixed. It's Wednesday.
Yeah, you gotta get. Yeah,
Wednesday.
there you go.
So he announced retirement. He said Sean Payton talked for about 30 minutes, and Sean, understood when he walked away that it's just one of those things when your body tells you when it's ready to go. So now there's a big gaping hole at corner 2. I think we all kind of assumed Patrick Robinson was the best possible option until we felt Paulson Adebo was ready for that cornerback 2 spot. So now it is completely up for grabs. So,
yes.
I mean, any thoughts on Robinson or what you think the race looks like for cornerback 2?
Well, P-Rob was the, almost locked on outside corner starter opposite of Marshawn Lattimore, with Paulson Adebo still getting his footing underground. Mm-hmm. So I'm really curious as to what really led to the retirement. I know Sean Payton had an extended conversation with him, and Payton came out and said, and just in his head, it was time to give it up. It was time to move on. So, 10-year career for him, of course, drafted by the Saints. Goes on, wins a Super Bowl with the Eagles, has a fantastic pick six in the NFC Championship game against the Vikings that year. Just didn't really pan out with the Saints overall, and obviously he was hurt a majority of last year. Didn't get to see much from him. This year was the year we were expecting a lot, and he retired. So I'm not really any hard feelings, but I am sad and disappointed to not have him on the team. Not only was he a good body, but it was kind of a redemption arc, kind of story for him to come back and play well with the team. So the fact that we don't get to see that is a little disappointing, but best wishes to him. Obviously Super Bowl champion. His time in the NFL was what he wanted it to be, and respect to him for deciding that and moving on. But as far as cornerback 2 goes now, Brian Poole signing looks a lot better now. Ken Crawley has been doing fantastic in camp, and as of right now, he is opposite Marshawn Lattimore in the depth chart for the second cornerback spot. So Ken Crawley right now is the starter. Right behind him is Brian Poole, and right behind Lattimore is Paulson Adebo. So I think Adebo, Poole, and Crawley are going to be the three guys competing for that outside corner spot, despite Brian Poole being an inside corner guy for a majority of his career. At camp, he's been playing outside most of the time. So, obviously disappointed to not see Patrick Robinson play. I think what we lose from Robinson isn't as dire as maybe we were expecting, just because we didn't see much from him last year. And the difference between him and, say Crawley or Debo or Brian Poole isn't that far off in terms of talent and coverage. But no, he was going to be the outside corner guy, number 2, and hung it up. So Saints have a lot of homework to do, and that's perfect timing ahead of the first preseason game. So
yeah, and I think you mentioning quarterback 2, and I think leads greatly into this next topic here. Of course, the Saints will play the Ravens tonight, week 1 of the NFL preseason. Let's talk about this depth chart real quick. Anything jump out to you?
Yes.
The official Saints depth chart you want to talk about real quick?
Well, so cornerback 2, obviously, the first thing that jumped out to me was Ken Crawley being there. But he's done great in camp, so shout out to him. Starting Sam linebacker, as of right now, is Kaden Ellis, which I enjoy very much. I think that he was a draft steal, very athletic guy out of a small school. He's with Demario Davis and Quan Alexander there in the linebacking core, which is to be expected. And then right behind Quan Alexander, this is what surprised me the most. It said Zach Bond or Pete Warner. So these guys are really competing against each other. Pete Warner did leave practice early, as did
Peyton Turner.
Oh, who was it that left? Peyton Turner, yes, yeah. Thank you. Peyton Turner also left practice early. So I don't think either of those guys will play tonight as of right now. It doesn't sound like. They haven't practiced since they left, but we'll see. So that really popped out to me as Kaden Ellis being the starting Sam linebacker. And also, I really wasn't expecting Shai Tuttle to be down on the depth chart as much as he is. He is
that was my
third D tackle.
It's the first thing I thought of, too, when I saw that.
Third D tackle there. He's behind Christian Ringo, who has been dominant in camp. So I think that he's just getting his looks at snaps. So we'll see how these guys play in the game. But yeah, I wasn't expecting Shai Tuttle to be down there that far. As far as the offense go, everything is to be expected. And I love also the little or between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. That really shows you. I mean, Taysom Hill is technically number 1 on the depth chart, but right in between him and Jameis is an or. So really that means no starter has been named. They're still undecided on everything. Both quarterbacks doing well in camp. So,
yeah.
But that's what really surprises me, and I know Shai Tuttle surprises you, of course, too. I think he's surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, that was my first takeaway. The other thing I noticed is Quan Alexander is a starting will linebacker, having coming late in a training camp. Not really doing a whole lot of physical work yet, but that's just, surprising to me. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing on Zach Bond or Pete Warner, or particularly Zach Bond, but that was interesting to me. I don't think he's not playing, obviously. The other thing that I found interesting on the offensive side of the ball, I'm really interested to see where Juwan Johnson ends up at the end of the preseason. I'm really interested because from what we've seen and read from everybody who's been at training camp reporting, he's been tearing it up as far as camp goes at tight end. I believe This week, in the span of 2 days, he had 4 receiving touchdowns in drills and team drills. So he is tied in 4 on the depth chart behind Adam Trautman, Nick Van Nett, Garrett Griffin, and then Juwan Johnson. I would really like to see him get some snaps. And, you know, the thing with the Saints offense is the tight end never has really had to be a run block first tight end or even good at it. You know, Jared Cook, Jimmy Graham. Hell, you could even say Ben Watson was used more as a receiving tight end than a blocking tight end here during his time here in New Orleans. So,
Right.
Juwan don't got a block. If he could just go out there and run up the seam and we get some seam routes going again from the tight end spot, I'm really excited for his potential, and I cannot wait to see him throughout this preseason. Another thing that I found interesting, I guess you can officially say that Ty Montgomery is going to be a wide receiver going into this year.
Yes.
Which we kind of assumed, but now with Devonta Freeman as running back 3, Tom Montgomery is going to be a receiver, and also it's interesting to see where all these guys, how these guys play. Obviously, no Mike Thomas. I would assume no Traquan Smith. He's been out. He was at practice, watching and doing some light work, so that's a positive sign. But I'm assuming Traquan's not going to play. So I would assume Marquez, Deontay are probably going to run out with the first unit. Safely
Right.
assume that. And then from there, it's going to be Tom Montgomery, Little Jordan Humphrey, Chris Hogan, Jalen McCluskey. Yeah, Tommy Lee Lewis. Really interesting to see how these wide receivers, how these snaps are divvied up and who makes the most of those snaps, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, there are 12 wide receivers, and half of these guys will actually make the roster. That is the reality of it. And the more that we go on, the more I'm thinking that my original prediction of Quan Baker making the final roster is not going to be correct. I think the Saints would be smart to actually leave him for the practice squad, because there's a few. Obviously, Chris Hogan is not going to be available for practice squad. I don't think Jake Lampman will be either if they end up liking him. Ty Montgomery definitely isn't. Tom Lee Lewis isn't either. So, I mean, if they wanted to keep any of those guys, what they could do is, of course, release Quan Baker. Hopefully he clears waivers and they just sign him to the practice squad. But I'm really excited to see how this receiving core does. Even if they don't look good out on the game, I'm still going to be very interested and excited to see what happens, because these are the guys for the first few weeks. Obviously, without Traquan Smith tonight, but Callaway, Harris, Low Jordan Humphrey. I want to see what Quan Baker can do. Mm-hmm. He could be the steal of the draft. Chris Hogan, we signed him for a reason. Really need to get the guy going. So we're going to get an opportunity to see all these receivers in action tonight. I'm really excited for that. We're going to see them in action with both Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. I think that's an important part too. How do these receivers play with these quarterbacks? Because that chemistry, the route running, all the plays, all of that meshing together is going to be really important for this team's success. Marquez Callaway has been doing fantastic in camp, so I'm expecting him to come out and really battle for that number 2 spot. Because by the time the season opens up, it's going to be Traquan Smith and Marquez Callaway 1 and 2 on the outside, most likely. Will Marquez Callaway be able to be the number 1 guy or be the number 2 guy when Michael Thomas comes back? I mean, there's still ways that he can work himself up on this roster, and he's been looking really good in camp. So wide receiver and quarterback are going to be the 2 things I'm going to be looking for most. This wide receiver depth chart is just fully loaded. It's crazy. Half of these guys are going to be cut.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see who impresses and decent. I mean, I don't know how many starters for the Ravens are going to be playing tonight, but the Ravens have a very good secondary. So it's going to be a good test for these receivers, see what they can do. The Ravens overall have a pretty good defense, so it's going to be a nice test for these guys.
Yeah, and I mean, another thing you mentioned, the quarterbacks. How about Ian Book? From what I've read and heard from the likes of Ross Jackson and Maddie down there at Hands Camp, Ian Book has maybe not flashed a whole lot, but he's been consistent. That's the biggest thing. He's constantly putting up. I think I saw. They were he's putting out one of the best spirals and throws. It's been consistent with Ian Book. So I'm also interested to see how he looks with some first game action with these receivers. Because who knows? He's a guy who I think. I don't want to already tell you that he's beat out Simeon for the quarterback 3 job, but I think with the way, especially if Jameis is the starter, the Saints will use Taysom Hill the way that he always has been, which would almost guarantee quarterback 3 a spot on the roster. And I think Ian Book is that guy. So I'm really excited to see what he can do tonight as well.
For sure. Yeah, and of course, Ian Book, the rookie out of Notre Dame, a little bit on the smaller size in terms of quarterbacks go, but won a whole bunch of games at Notre Dame, led him to the college football playoffs. Dude knows how to play, dude knows how to win. Expect to see a lot of, not necessarily check down throws by Ian Book, but a lot of shorter routes, a lot of intermediate stuff in the middle of the field, more specifically. He just has a hard time reaching the outside numbers and whatnot. So if the Saints really want to test him, they'll throw him that. But if they want to see what Ian Book can do, give him some short to intermediate routes towards the middle of the field. And I think that he could slice and dice. Now, he probably won't be playing until end of the third, into the fourth quarter. Simeon is right now the third quarterback on that list. But I agree with you. I think by the time season opens up, I mean, the Saints, I don't know. Again, we've talked about this before. Do they go with 4 quarterbacks? If Jameis Winston is the starter, you want to use Taysom Hill as that Swiss Army knife guy. But if he gets hurt and you only have one other quarterback, so if Jameis gets hurt while playing quarterback, let's say Taysom Hill gets hurt while not playing quarterback, you only have one other quarterback on the roster, and that's Ian Book. But if you decide to go with 4 quarterbacks and have Trevor Siemian there, then you at least have a backup. Or vice versa, if you want to have Siemian be the third and Book be the fourth. Either way, though, I really hope Ian Book makes this roster. I think he's got it in him, too. I think that he is a very good project quarterback. Mm-hmm. And who knows, he could shock the world and end up being a quality starter in this league. He's been looking decent in camp. Better than Trevor Siemian, by the way. So, I'm excited to see Ian Book. I'm excited to see this offensive line. Will Clapp will be getting a lot of playing time there at center behind Eric McCoy. We'll also be seeing Calvin Thorntonmacher, who has been on the roster for a little bit now. Also, J.R. Sweezy, who the Saints picked up recently. He's behind Andres Pete on the depth chart right now at left guard. And Derek Kelly is going to be back up at right guard. So a lot of new faces that we're looking for. And then Landon Young, the rookie out of Kentucky. So how that offensive line protects whoever's playing quarterback here is also going to be interesting to watch. Even though we have our starters signified there on the offensive line, we know who's going to be the starting 5. It is going to be nice to see who's going to be backing them up. Because, the Saints usually only carry, a total of 7 to 9 offensive linemen most of the time. So, right now they have 15. So, quite a few of these guys will get cut. So, but I'm just excited for some football.
Yeah, I'm sorry, one more thing I noticed real quick. I just kind of skimming through this depth chart.
Yeah.
P.J. Williams is a safety, not a corner.
He's been a safety, yeah. He's been a safety since the start of training camp, yeah.
I love it.
He's backing up, too, by the way. He's backing up Marcus Williams, which is nice to see, so.
Yeah, so, let me ask you this then. Prince Mukamara, does he have a shot at cornerback, too?
I think he does, yeah, especially with the P-Rob retirement. I mean, that kind of helped everybody out here. Right now, though, he is third on the right cornerback depth chart. He could definitely be getting some playing time, but Kavari Russell, I think, may have a better shot at making this team than Amukamara, simply because not only, obviously Amukamara has experience, but Russell has experience while also not being, quote-unquote, too old in this league, and he also provides good special teams skill sets, so I enjoy that out of him, too, but yeah, corner. I think defensively, cornerback, obviously, and overall, cornerback may be the thing to pay attention to the most tonight. And on the offensive side of the ball, it's quarterback and wide receiver, of course. Wide receiver more than anything, just because we don't know. Quarterback, we've been seeing this battle go on. We'll be able to really determine who. I think at this point, everybody's banking that Jameis Winston will be named the starter come week 1. I don't think any Saints fans really think otherwise. So I think that's why wide receiver may be a little more interesting. But other than that, cornerback is the thing to look for the most. And again, we don't know are we going to have Marshawn Lattimore to open up the season? We don't know at this point.
Yeah, that's going to be real interesting. Maybe to throw him past you a little earlier than we'd like to, but
Right.
Really quick, besides quarterback and cornerback, any other matchups or certain players, whether it's Saints or Ravens, that you're interested in seeing tonight?
Oh, well, yeah, so let's go over the Ravens. I want to go over the Ravens depth chart real quick, because, there are some interesting guys to pay attention to over this game that we're going to have. Of course, Rashad Bateman, the rookie first-round wide receiver, he's not going to be available. He's going to be here He's likely going to be out till about mid-September, so we won't see him, which is a little disappointing because I really like Rashad Bateman as a player. But you'll see some other really decent wide receivers. Marquise Brown, of course, Hollywood. Sammy Watkins, the veteran Super Bowl champion. Miles Boykin. You got Devin Duvernay, the speedster. I think he's second-year player out of Texas.
Yep.
Tylon Wallace, who was a player that I really wanted the Saints to get out of Oklahoma State. He was mocked in a few of our mocks. He was a fourth-round pick this year. So those are some receivers I'm really interested to see, again, going to be testing this cornerback group. So that's got my attention for sure. Really good offensive line here for the Ravens as well. I think they'll probably not play a whole lot of their starters. But getting to see guys like Ben Powers, he's still kind of trying to make his way into this league there at guard. That's going to be interesting. Lamar Jackson is, of course, their quarterback with J.K. Dobbins. That's a great 1-2 punch. But Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, that might be the best one of the best running back rooms in the entire league. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill. Really, really solid guys there in the backfield. Defensively, so I guess matchups for the offense is really wide receiver against our cornerbacks. I'm really interested to see that for sure. Defensively, they have a really, really good front seven. Derek Wolfe, Brandon Williams, Calais Campbell, Pernell McPhee, Patrick Queen, former LSU Tiger, of course, Malik Harrison, and Tyus Bowser. Like, that is really, really solid. So how our offensive line will hold up to that is going to be a good question because we're going to need our offensive line to block well, not only to see what we can get from our quarterbacks, keep a clean pocket for them, but also our running game. How is that going to look? How well are our guards pulling? If we're getting blown up just about every other play, then it's going to be a little frustrating. You're not going to be able to really determine a whole lot. So hopefully our offensive line can hold up against this good, because even behind them, you have guys like Justin Matabuki, who was a third-round pick last season, Jalen Ferguson, who was a third-round pick back in 2019, and just a lot of solid guys there on the front seven, even behind. Of course, they signed Justin Houston. Absolute. Or wait.
Yeah,
Justin Houston. I was making sure it was the same Justin Houston too, because it said SF21, but that makes sense now. And LJ Fort, another guy I like a lot too. And then, like I mentioned, they have one of the best secondaries in the entire league. Traded for Marcus Peters a couple seasons ago, and he's been balling out. They got Marlon Humphrey, who's one of the better cornerbacks in the league as well. And then Tavon Young is one of the best nickel corners in the game, and they drafted Sean Wade out of Ohio here too. We're probably going to see him play. Just really, really solid roster overall for these guys. Last time the Saints and Ravens played, believe it was a week 6 matchup, week 6 or 7. Very intense game, very close. Saints end up going to Baltimore, getting the win because of a Justin Tucker first ever missed extra point in his career. Crazy game. First time they're playing them since. Obviously, it's preseason, doesn't mean as much. But I think those are the matchups I really want to watch. Our offensive line against their front seven. Our wide receivers against their cornerbacks is also going to be interesting. But I think the main matchup is their wide receivers going up against our secondary to see how well we play. What are you thinking?
Also, I believe, quick note on that Raven game last, I think that was where Lamar scored his first NFL touchdown.
Right, yes, it was, because that was still when Joe Flacco was the starter.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was Lamar's first touchdown. One player I like to mention real quick that you mentioned earlier, Sean Wade, the corner out of Ohio State. People do forget, before this draft last year, before this past season in college football, Sean Wade was going to be like a top 10 pick.
He was almost like cornerback. He was cornerback 1.
Yeah, he was going to be disgusting. Then he opted to play at Ohio State, and it did not go well for him this year. Thus, he fell. I'm interested to see if maybe the Ravens got a late steal in the kid, because, this Saints wide receiver core will be a test for Sean Wade in particular. We'll see how he matches up against our cast of misfits at wide receiver, if you will. And quickly, I'll say another matchup I'm looking forward to. I really want to see this front seven get after the quarterback. I think all throughout camp, we've seen guys like Cameron Jordan, Marcus Davenport has been phenomenal so far throughout camp. As has Peyton Turner these last couple days. He's got real hot. We know the linebackers are good. Just a matter of which 3 are on the field or 2 are on the field at times. So I'm I'm really just to see how this front seven gets after the quarterback. Whether it's I don't think Lamar's playing, so probably Trace McSorley is going to get the start.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see this front seven get after the quarterback because again, I feel like the front seven is probably our strongest unit overall. I think defensive line or starter wise, I think
it's tough because especially
tough.
with Onyemata being out for the first 6 games.
Yeah.
If Onyemata was healthy and good, then I think our front seven is the best.
It's solid. It's a very solid unit.
Very solid.
I think this would be the strength of our team. Because if you get pressure, you force bad throws, you force early throws. Secondary can take advantage of that. You get good field position for the offense, which we really don't know what we're getting at offensively. So, front seven to me has to show up and get pressure tonight. I really like to see that. Also, Marquez Callaway. It's going to be interesting. Yes. I don't see him play a lot. Potentially wide receiver 1 going into the season, depending on Traquan Smith, how healthy he gets. But he's been lighting it up as well, so I'm super excited to see what he does against the Ravens tonight.
Same, yeah. And like I said, by the time the season opens up, Michael Thomas is still going to be out, so will Marquez Callaway be able to take over Smith for that wide receiver 1 spot? It all starts tonight, so we'll see. And also, again, just to remind everybody, this year it's 3 preseason games as opposed to 4. So less time for teams to look at their players, but it's more significant time. That kind of extra game, or now it's extra, but the 4th preseason game was always kind of either a ramp-up game for these guys or really just a throwaway game. One of the preseason games is always kind of a throwaway game where you didn't really care. Now you get 3, you get less time to look at these guys, but it's a little bit more significant. So 3 instead of 4 this year. It's going to be interesting to see what these guys can do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think normally, if I'm correct here, game 3, back when we have 4 games, usually is the game where you get the starters ready for, usually a quarter or an entire half, if you will. And then game 4 is usually for everybody still trying to fight to make the roster. So now every snap is just as important as ever for a lot of these guys on the roster who probably won't make the roster. So,
100%.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Kickoff tonight at M&T Bank Stadium. I'm excited.
Me too. 7 p.m. Eastern Time kick, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, good wave. I'm excited about this. Any last words here, Dave, before we sign off here?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, obviously winning and losing doesn't fully matter in these games. Points in the other team. But I'm just hoping for some good football. Good game. It's not on TV anywhere as far as I'm concerned, other than if you're in Louisiana, locally broadcast.
No. Or if you have Game Pass.
But you can always look. Does Game Pass get you all the preseason games?
I believe on the app. On the app, it shows that.
Okay. If I'm not actually sure. Most of the time, though, preseason games are really only for the local. But regardless, though, you can go to the Saints website, and I believe this has been a thing for every year. You can listen to the radio broadcast.
Yeah.
On the Saints website, if you want to do that. If you're out of the market for any reason, so I'm just hoping for some good football. I'm excited to see the highlights on YouTube later. Yeah,
couldn't agree more. I just want a competitive, fun game, win or loss. I just want to see the Saints team have some fight in them, and hopefully we'll see a lot from this promising roster. And it's officially time to kick off the new season date. I'm excited.
I'm really excited too. I'm really excited.
I'm excited, guys. So that's gonna wrap things up. Later this week we'll have a post week 1 of the preseason recap, as well as whatever the Saints news comes up, because, hey, it's just been one of those weeks. Also, forgot to mention Will Lutz is out. Mm-hmm. Brett Maher, and I've watched some Cowboy games this year. I'm not very confident in our kicker whatsoever, but, hey.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Just preseason. Yeah, that's the other thing. Will Lutz will be out for
at least
a while.
8 weeks at least. So, Maher is the guy who makes 50-yard field goals, but can't make 20 or 30-yarders. I watched a lot of Cowboy games with him when he was in Dallas. That's what he was. He's a guy who makes 50-yarders, but can't make 20-yarders to save his life. So,
good Lord,
that's what we're gonna get. It's gonna be exciting to watch that. But yeah, that's gonna do it from here. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at SaintsFPC. Leave reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. Super grateful for you guys, and we are super excited for another Saints season. And we'll bring you guys all the coverage here on Full Press Saints. That's gonna do it for now. This is Dane signing off. See you guys soon.